Hey, everybody. We are here today with Matt Wiley and, of course, myself, Elizabeth, and Mike. We are Care for Nurses, right? So if you're a nurse, you're in the right place. We are a community created to provide nurses with support, advice, and really just a safe place to talk about any ongoing challenges. A place where you can come together with other nurses who may be going through similar things or who have gone through similar things, to be a support for you and you a support to others. So whether you're here to support someone else or here to find support, we would love for you to get engaged, and we have a lot of different ways to do that. We'll kind of talk about ways to get engaged afterwards. I can't wait to dive in today with Matt. So he's here today. We're going to talk a little bit about finding joy in nursing and advice for the overwhelmed. Matt journey began in emergency care, and about 14 years ago, right?
That's right.
All right. So he started working as a lifeguard, I guess, and he and his wife navigated some different challenges and became dedicated in his career as an ER nurse and then a flight nurse, right? So I'm really excited to kind of get to know your experience and what you have to say to others who may find themselves in high stress situations or just nursing in general, right? Which can also lend itself to being high stress. So I would love for you to do a little intro and we'll just take off running.
Awesome. So as we were talking, my mother lived in Appalachia, Kentucky, and the closest doctor was over in West Virginia. So I was actually born in West Virginia, but we never lived there. So I say I was born on a road trip in West Virginia. But
I love that.
Needless to say, my dad, he taught lifeguarding and CPR and first aid. So I grew up being the victim of like swim down to the bottom of the pool that the lifeguards pulled me up, to the top and practicing things. And I was doing that at, 3 years old and 5 years old. So doing this and helping others and teaching is that's all I remember. But then my emergency medicine journey started as an EMT in about 2006. I then went on to get my paramedic 2010, nursing in 2015, where I started in the emergency department. I feel like I was just kind of wired for ER. And then, 2020 happened and kind of turned nursing and healthcare on its head.
No.
That's when I transitioned over to flight at the end of 2020 and did that up until recent. So
Nice.
Yep.
Well, it sounds like that you've been in some situations that have lended itself to some high stress, right?
Right.
What would be some advice? I know we've talked briefly about how you've had the opportunity to mentor some nurses who are just kind of getting into nursing, who might have some of those doubts, questions, concerns, thoughts, all the things that may kind of swim around in their mind. What are some of the conversations you've had, or some things that have been very helpful to some of those individuals?
I think so. My wife and I, we became parents pretty young. We were teen parents. And then so going to school and working and paying bills and living life has just been part of what we've done. So we graduated high school, and then she went on to graduate college. I worked a few years and then did EMT. Then she put me through EMT, paramedic, and nursing school. So having the work-life balance with family and work has been a challenge the whole time. I have a person that I listen to. His name's Eric Thomas, and I love this quote of "Don't cry to give up, cry to keep going." And there were so many times that I just felt overwhelmed with. There was just schoolwork and homework and family things and children's activities, and trying to balance income with paying the bills. But yet I feel like I've worked so much I need a day off, but yet I'm trying to make ends meet for everybody. So in those moments, like, where do you start? And those things tend to be the biggest challenges that new nurses and even people coming into the workforce just see. Our oldest daughter now is 21, and she worked at Disney World, and her first experience with working was at Disney. And she never had a job, never had a boss, never had to clock in, never had to put in for vacation time or anything like that. So it was pretty overwhelming. And I just remember talking, especially to her, just to say, you're here for experience. She took a college intern program of like, you're here for experience, hang in there, just gather and figure out all those, build relationships with people is your biggest thing you're doing at this point. And then just get a group of friends together and try to be cohesive and get a cohort. Um, I would also say that on that line of new nurses, if you can get, it's not really about the department that you're in. And ER is an ER, and they've all got problems. And ICU is an ICU, and they all have problems. I picked up in COVID ICU and did a lot during the Delta wave. I wasn't really trained or wired for ICU, but I found myself there. I actually found myself working in an ICU with the chief nursing officer, the ICU director, manager, charge nurse, the vice president of quality was an RN, and myself on a Saturday. And most of these people worked offices up until COVID happened. So we were all just trying to do the best we could do. There were many moments of overwhelm, but I think everyone coming together to support one another was one of the biggest things you could do. So I would say try to find people that you're working with and build relationships, someone that you can talk to, someone that you can text with, someone that you can even hang out with on your off day. You can just text them and say, hey, yesterday was crazy, something like that. That would be the biggest thing, is just try to find people you can connect with. My wife is not medically inclined. She's not wired for ER. She's not wired for trauma. She's not wired for much of the things that I see. I can come home and talk to her, but there's a lot of details that I don't share. And there's things that happen in emergency medicine, and there's things that happen in healthcare that sometimes you just keep because you don't really want other people to be damaged by that experience. But I do have people that, coworkers and things, and we talk, and, sometimes in the emergency department, we have, I don't know how to say, like, twisted humor. And that's sometimes how we cope. We make, jokes that aren't necessarily funny to anybody else. But if you look at it, it's not like we're trying to be funny. We're just trying to cope through the moment.
Sure.
So I'd say healthy coping is extremely important. Avoiding drugs and alcohol is extremely important. And first and foremost, what I would tell new grad nurses and even established nurses who are already doing things is try to get a really firm foundation of who you are and why you're here. Some of the corporate world has kind of exploited the what's your why, and they try to make that something that it's, I don't know. But I would say your why is yours, and you keep it to you, and that's why you help people. That's why you chose this profession. That's why you show up every day. I show up for my family every day, and I show up because I want to help my community. I think it's really important to work in a hospital or an environment that's somewhat close to your home so that you can serve the community around you. And I really strive to make that place somewhere when my friends or my family get sick, that's where I would tell them to go. If it's not, then I need to try to build the culture or the atmosphere that turns it into, this is where I want my family to go.
Wow, that's powerful.
Right. What a great way to think about it. Yeah.
Yeah, because especially in moments of trauma, when you have something that's non-emergent, like if you're gonna have a hip surgery or something, you kind of get to choose where you go.
Sure.
To some aspect, you can travel an hour or two to get that shoulder replacement or whatever. But in the moment of like you're having a STEMI, like a cardiac arrest or something, you're going to the closest place. Yeah, we know I worked since 2007 on 911, and you're going to the closest place. And I really want that closest place to get the best care. You make fun of Grey's Anatomy, but there's one where they're doing all of these things. They're like, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? And they think that it's pointless. But I think it is incredibly important to be able to go to someone's family and say, we did everything we could do, and it's just their time. And you get the comfort. That conversation is never easy. I don't think they ever get easier. I did dual role as a paramedic, and we were also deputy coroners in the county that I lived in. So if there was nothing we could do paramedic wise, then we slipped over into a deputy coroner role where we did contact family members and notify them. And then also being in the ER as a charge nurse, I'd go in there with the physician and we talk to the family and tell them, hey, your loved one's passed away, and try to help guide them through the next steps.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, well, first of all, thank you. I mean, thank you for serving the community. There seems to be a lot you've said. I tried to jot down a few things I wanted to come back to. I think there's a lot I want to point out, but the most recent thing you said is establishing your why and serving in your community. And I think those two, from what I hear you say, are really kind of go hand in hand for you specifically. Your why is part of your why is serving your community so that you can make the services available to your community even better because you have some control of that, right?
Right.
But I know that serving your community has been a really hot topic in nursing lately because of a lot of the travel nursing positions that are opening up. And so it's tempted a lot of nurses to say, "Ooh, I can make so much more money if I go and I travel." And hey, maybe they don't have small kids, so they can do that, or whatever their circumstances are. And it's really pulled from some of the local resources, especially some of the rural areas like in West Virginia. And so to hear you say, hey, allow that community to be your why, I think is a pretty powerful statement. I hear you say anyway. So I don't know if you have any opinions on travel nursing or something.
I totally do. I think travel nurses are essential. They fill a need for a time. And some people are built that way. Mm-hmm. They get built and they're just made to move. And that's kind of just what they do. Because I think that their foundation is rooted in something different, and maybe you do have that kind of gypsy spirit and you like to go and help and then move on when you're no longer needed. Say there's they open a new department and they need new people to help mentor new staff and things like that. I know some fantastic travel nurses, and they've saved the day more times than I can count. I've got plenty of stories of travel nurses saving the day. But I think in COVID, I did shared staffing in the local region. So I would go and work in emergency departments and pick up, and ICUs and pick up. And there was a time that I said my allegiance lies with the highest bidder. And I would go and go and go and work and work and work. And there came a point where the money didn't matter. Like I literally thought I was getting texts and phone calls like, you could pay me $5,000 an hour and I can't come. I have burnt myself. I am fried. And that was not a good place to be. So I think you have to have balance. You can't just sell out for the highest bidder. You can't just go and chase the dollar, because you got to be rooted in something bigger than that.
Yeah. Something
of like true value that speaks to your core and to why you got into this profession. And there were, for nurses that worked through COVID, God bless you. Like, we were all there together, and I know we all did the best we could do with the resources that we had. But there were many times of overwhelm. There were times that you just felt like you weren't enough. There were days that you felt just defeated. You didn't feel like you couldn't win the day. You just left work feeling completely empty and still didn't change the outcome. And those days are going to happen. And on those days, I lean back into gratitude and I say, thank you for putting me here. I say, thank you for allowing me to be here. Thank you for allowing me to have a body that's able to do this. Thank you for just a whole list of things that I'm just grateful for. And that kind of pulls me out of a negative headspace. In the moment, I have a thing, I heard this years ago. It's called tactical breathing. And if I'm in the moment of something, it's you breathe in for 4 seconds, hold that for 4 seconds, out for 4 seconds, and hold that for 4 seconds. And you just do that. And you're counting and you're seeing the numbers in your head. And something between anxiety and overwhelm doesn't correlate with math and numbers. So it kind of gets you out of a loop.
Yeah.
And it resets your person, and then go to a place of gratitude and just remember why you're doing what it is that you're doing. And it's not just about the dollar. It's about the person in the bed. It's about the family member sitting next to the bed. It's about the person you're talking to on the phone. It's about your coworker that's down the hall. It's everybody.
Sure. I appreciate your statement about appreciate your statement about travel nursing, that there are those people who are built for that, but then there are some that get into it because, hey, this looks enticing. And if they're not careful, they can easily burn themselves out, is what I heard you say, right? Because it's
Right.
kind of chasing something. And I have a friend of mine that happened to. She was a critical care ICU nurse, went into travel nursing, made some really good money, and she just kept doing it because, hey, this is great, this is working. And then all of a sudden she found herself completely crashed and burned. And I think that, knowing the signs of that, knowing the signs of burnout is really important as well. And maybe another conversation.
It's real.
Yeah, I would love to have you back and kind of talk about that as well, and because it sounds like you've seen it or dealt with it as well. So, but I kind of want to circle back and say you also talked on one of the first things you said, building relationships. Finding a cohort and finding that support. This is exactly what we're trying to do in Care for Nurses, right? So maybe if a nurse can't find somebody there that they gel with, whether they're a travel nurse and they just can't gel because they're moving around, or whether they are new and just getting involved and they're kind of afraid to open up or not really sure who to talk to, right? Definitely the Care for Nurses place is a place where they can come to do that. But what other suggestions do you have, right? As far as connecting and support?
I would say be intentional. Don't just think the world happens to me, I happen to the world. The decisions that you make and the choices that you make are yours. And there's a tendency to turn that into a negative, like I'm responsible for where I am in life. But if you take that and put it in a moment of power, like I am in control of me and where I go and what I do, and my decisions are intentional. So I make an intentional decision to drink water. I make an intentional decision to go to the bathroom when I need to. I make an intentional decision to have an off day and have a plan for that off day, to connect with the people who matter most to me in my life and let them know that. I think we get stuck in a work, sleep, work, sleep, work, sleep, work, sleep. And we think that we're doing everything we can do for the people that we love, but they're not feeling that because you're not present. So you have to make sure. One of the things, like, and I've been through this, and that's how I think it's so passionate to me, is like, if you speed to work and you're so worried about getting to work and getting there on time, and you're getting there, do you speed to get home to your family? Do you speed to are you in the same motivational space to get to the play, to get to the school performance, to get to taking them to school, to getting home, to get breakfast before kids go? I work night shift, so like trying to get home for the first day of school is like really important. And if you don't put the same energy and effort towards the people that you love and the people and the relationships that you have as you're putting towards the job that's paying you, you may end up, the scale gets tipped towards now your work-life balance is off. You may not feel that immediately, which is what I didn't feel immediately in COVID, when I'm chasing money, and then it definitely got tilted. So I had to recognize things that I did when my mental health was not great. And I know that I avoided, like, cutting my hair was one thing. I wouldn't shave, and I'd get this whole neck beard thing going, and it wasn't in front of me immediately. And then I recognized, like, hey, I'm not eating like I'm supposed to be. I don't feel like I should. I'm taking ibuprofen every second of the day because I just hurt all over, like, what's going on here. So just, I think, checking in with yourself just to see where you are, like your awareness of how you're living. If you're just waking up, crushing Red Bulls and eating power bars and then going to bed and doing the same thing, that it's not sustainable.
Yeah. Those are all really valid points. Mike, I saw you interjecting earlier and I kind of cut you off. Were you going somewhere?
No, I could ask him 20 questions right now. Like, I'm loving the energy and, like, everything you're saying. I'm not a nurse, but this resonates. Like, the speeding, am I, like, working like crazy? I think I'm doing it for my family, but they're not feeling it. That's like a gut punch right now. But so the thing that I have, like, we're here. I'd like to think I'm self-aware enough that I'm like, okay, I'm listening, I'm trying to work on this stuff. What do you do? You must have had some people maybe under your charge that they're not naturally able to find the gratitude like you do. Like, what do you do with somebody who is just, I don't want to badmouth anyone, but people are just kind of negative, and like, what do you do with a person like that? How do you help someone even see it from another side?
Or if they don't even recognize it in themselves. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would sometimes have a conversation of kind of just to check in with them. And, you know, sometimes just in talking back and forth, I could say something like, you know, hurt people hurt people. And, you know, if just super negative and they're like really at somebody, you know, maybe they just come in every day and it's just the end of the world. And it's like, I try to celebrate the little wins, particularly in the ER and particularly in nursing. We're really wired to find what's wrong. And when you do that day in, day out, and you just look for what's wrong and what's bad and what's not right, then you get kind of wired to just spot the negative things. And that's what our job is we find what's wrong. And to try to focus and shift huddles and just connecting and having conversation with them to say, you know, what's going well. And then I try to celebrate the little wins. You know, you get the EKG in under 10 minutes for a STEMI or just a normal chest pain or whatever. Celebrate that. I tried to make, like, we do the employee of the month. I made like some fill out cards of like what brings you joy in your life. Just tell us about you. What's your favorite food? What's your family like? Do you have a dog? Do you have a cat? Do you have a fish? What do you do for fun? And we'd highlight a different employee every week. Try to make that coincide with their birthday. So like we get to know you. I order food. I think there's a lot of connection around food. I think there's a lot of connection around music. I like to play at least something soft at the nurse's station, because sometimes even the right song can bring you back to a place of, you know, somewhere that was great. Hopefully, it can lift a mood. You know, if you got something that's uplifting as far as music goes. I really try to bring a team together. You know, especially on night shift. Sometimes people could go home early, so I like to do, you know, not just like who's in overtime, who's contract, who's whatever. That's the person who goes home first. I like to do like a rock, paper, scissors tournament to see, you know, if people want to play for that, the people that would like to go home early, or race doing crossword puzzles, or, you know, just something fun, just to bring some laughs, just to say the sky's not always falling. It's not always raining. Sometimes you just got to look for the sun and it's there.
Yeah.
I love that.
Man, this is so inspirational.
Yeah,
it's really good.
I'm with you. So you've mentioned humor a couple times as a good, solid coping skill. And then you followed by healthy coping, avoiding drugs and alcohol. Can you talk a little bit more about, sometimes I think it's just as clear as that, avoid drugs and alcohol, but can we expand a little bit more on that? Because I do know that sometimes they're like, well, a drink here is okay, a drink here is okay, or, you know, it's not gonna, nobody's watching, nobody's gonna say anything, I'm not working tomorrow, you know, all these things that can kind of make it seem okay in their headspace at the moment, but then that is just a gateway or a slippery slope. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I've got a few points on that. One, drugs and alcohol, if you say I don't have a naturally addictive personality, which some people are kind of more wired for that and some people are not, these medications, alcohol, drugs, they are wired to make you wired to be dependent. That's what they do. So even if you're not naturally wired that way, the more that you consume them, especially in excess, the more your brain becomes wired and starts chasing the dopamine of that. And it's easy to get that rather than do something hard. So your brain is constantly trying to do what's easiest. Let's get from A to B. You know, you go to the checkout line and it's like, which line's the shortest? Which way do I get A to B? So if it can get dopamine from alcohol, then boom, it's going to do it. The downside of taking something to cope, or a depressant, like I'm running from something, I've got feelings that I'm trying to run from, I had a bad shift, you can make up a bajillion like alcohol is celebrated and alcohol is mourned. You know, you got something that you're sad about, you can drink. You got a birthday party, you can drink. You're going on a cruise, you can drink. You're going to the beach, you can drink. You got a funeral, you can drink. There's all these reasons. When you start to numb those emotions, you numb the sad, and the sad starts to creep in. But when you do that, everything balances. Everything's trying to balance. So you've got this side of the scale that comes in. Well, now your happy is not as happy.
Mm.
And your sad gets less sad, but your happy gets less happy. And then you just kind of become this thing that's just kind of in the middle. And you feel somewhat empty and emotionless. And I say that because you could numb from scrolling social media for hours. You could numb just from checking out, and your whole family was sitting there with you at the dinner table, and then you look up and they're all gone. They're gone to bed. It's been 2 hours, and you've been in TikTok. Now I love TikTok. There's lots of great things to learn on there, but you could go down a rabbit hole of who knows what. I think when any of those things, behavior, drug, alcohol, social media, things that are not serving you well to where you're not present in the moment and doing the things that mean the most to you, then it's time to take a step back from that. But muting feelings and trying to cope with those things, like I said, you'll just become this, you almost feel numb from everything. So especially working in emergency medicine as a paramedic and then a charge nurse in the ER, there's some highly emotional things. And I'm a pretty emotional person, which was actually said to me that they felt like I was too sensitive or I was too emotional to work in emergency medicine.
Wow.
But I said, on the flip side of that, would you want someone who doesn't care and has no emotion taking care of you, or someone who does?
Mm.
So I learned how to control that to a sense. One of the downsides for that for me is that, if there's high energy, then I try to bring calm energy.
Mm-hmm.
On my off days, when I am trying to celebrate and do something, someone brings big energy, then I also meet here. So I have to try to be intentional to come up to meet their happy at a higher point, because I'm wired to bring calm to the situation. So I bring calm to chaos and screaming and crying and yelling and fighting. But somehow I also bring calm to, let's go party. It's a great day. Let's celebrate and
Gotcha.
rejoice.
Yeah.
I have to bring that
Be intentional.
Yes. Be intentional and be intentional with your brain. Be intentional with what you eat. Be intentional with what you drink. Be intentional with your sleep habits. Just be intentional. I don't really keep a plan, but I'm intentional.
Yeah. I love that. It serves you well, and you can see that. And I could definitely see how that could translate into others and be very infectious, like working on your team. Like, I want to work with you.
Let's do it.
So, you had said something and now it's flown out of my head. How you bring, the yelling, screaming, the chaos to here. I would love to know another conversation about that, right? Down the road, because I think that's some skills that I could use, but I think others could, right? And learning.
Well, I'll tell you real quick, just the cheat, like, if you've got someone in the ER and they're screaming or yelling, our easiest answer, the straightest line is they're angry. There are so many different emotions that scream and yell. Angry screams and yells, scared, frightened, anxious, unknowingly afraid. Like, all of those things could scream and yell and just manifest. Someone's hungry. They're hangry. They're yelling because they just need to eat. And when you can try to listen to the words that people are saying and offer solutions to that. So here's one. So, like, if labs and things are going to take an hour, and I see that it's 6:00 and mom's there in the bed, she's the patient, and dad's got 2 kids and they're running around, and he's like, when are we going to go? When are we going to go? When are we going to go? Like, this stuff is going to take about an hour. Why don't you take them and go and get food? And then you can come back. You can bring it in. We'll let you come back. It's all fine. And then they just, just trying to speak to what is the problem. And I would say 90% of the people come to the ER because they want peace of mind.
Mm-hmm.
So you offer peace of mind. It's not just the patient in the bed. You've got the patient in the bed and whoever they brought with them that's in there. So if you've got dad who's sick, you got to make mom feel good about the plan and good about the care. If she doesn't feel good about it, they're going to go to the next ER at the next exit, and they're going to repeat the whole same thing, even though they're going to do the exact same test. But if somewhere listens and offers them peace of mind, they're going to win the day.
That's brilliant. I love that. Matt, I feel like we could just keep going with our conversation. And
Probably could.
I knew that going into this, that 30 minutes would fly by, and here it is. It's 11.
I get to ask one more thing. I know we'll go over, but
yeah.
So I love what you said. So Matt, you said you're intentional, but you're not really a planner. Do you have any kind of routine like for setting goals? Do you like a morning envisioning your day? Do you do any of that kind of stuff? Do you have any kind of habits?
I went straight vegan in 2019. I worked 10 years at Cracker Barrel. I couldn't tell you thousands of eggs and meat and dairy and all kinds of things, but I wanted to have some more control over my life and what I ate. And if I just gave myself this parameter, then I knew I could stick to it. So before my work days, I buy the food that I would want to eat, kind of a variety of it. I get water, I get everything in there, and then I just kind of like do what feels great in that day, but at least I have stuff. And then we can also order food or order whatever, and I keep gift cards in my phone so that I can just order food to the ER if I need to, so that I can eat there. And that kind of my plan is to just have a plan to be ready, but it's very versatile in the moment. So the food dictates your day. It sounds like it's all about the food. It does. It totally does. That's interesting. Yeah, it does. I think it's just a great foundation. It's just, it's just the start of me. I try to start from a point of gratitude. I do have a strong foundation in faith, and then I just try to build everything else on top of that. It can go as high as it goes.
I love it. Oh, Matt, would you please come back?
I totally will.
We would love that. We would love that. Well, just to sign off, thank you. I cannot thank you enough for being here. I'm so glad that we happenstance to find you. For those listening who are, maybe you're listening now, maybe you're listening after this has already been recorded, if you want to get involved, if you have something you want to say, if you're like Matt and you're really passionate about something, reach out to us. We'd love to have you on here. We'd love to get you connected into our community, start engaging with other nurses. This is exciting. It's an exciting opportunity for all of us to come together, be intentional, share those conversations and the support that we need to hear. I know you've set my day off. I'm ready to get some stuff done. I feel super energized, Matt. So thank you guys so much for that. If you're not a part of Care for Nurses yet, please, 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 reach out to us at team@carefornurses.com and how you can get connected and involved. So thank you.
Matt, thank you so much. This was a pleasure.
Yes. We'll be in touch soon, Matt.
Thanks.
All right.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Thanks.